Hello, everyone, and welcome. My name is Sharon Bonney. I'm the CEO for the Coalition on Adult Basic Education, and it is my pleasure to welcome you to our webinar today, COVID-19 Resource, Transition Your Program to Online Registration. And actually, that title does not do justice to what this webinar is going to be on because it's so much more than just online registration. Before I introduce to you our presenter today, which is Jeff Arnott, I just have two quick slides I want to go over. We're in the middle of Advocacy April. Advocacy April is specifically about contacting your legislator so that we will have funding for adult education. You're probably aware that as a field, we've come together in the past and we've staved off huge cuts, $200 million of funding cuts, and added $75 million to the pot. And so that's every year. We have to advocate for ourselves. We have to make sure we have funding under WIOA. So we have our typical $692 million WIOA funding request. But we understand that many in the field are experiencing challenges because of the COVID-19 virus. So they're working remotely. Many of their adult learners don't have Wi-Fi or don't have laptops. And so we're really looking to bring funding in for the field. And I just want to be really clear, this funding does not pass through COABE in any way. This goes right from the feds to the state directors to the local programs. So our job, COABE's, is to be that voice for adult education and to bring everybody together to work together for funding for adult education. We also have the request in working with your state legislatures, your governors and your state representatives. There's in the Stimulus 3 package, there was funding set aside for emergency education relief. There's about $3 billion that's been pushed down to governors that they can allocate as they see fit, but adult education is not written. It's not even mentioned in there. So if you go to coabe.org, there's really easy to follow instructions on how you can contact your legislator, as well as how you could set up appointments and meet with them remotely. I also wanted to mention that we have targeted webinars in addition to this that have been really well attended. We've had over 1,000 people for most of our webinars, and you are welcome to join. It's free to our members. So just go to coabe.org and check that out. So now, without further ado, I want to introduce you to Jeffrey Arnott. I've had the pleasure of working with Jeffrey on our national board of directors, and I know he's an award-winning administrator. I'm going to read his bio here. Jeff Arnott has extensive experience in the administration of adult education programs in the state of Florida. He is an active member of the Adult and Community Educators of Florida state level board, where he serves as treasurer and standing board member. He is the current president of the Florida Adult and Technical Distance Education Consortia, and he is an instructor for the Institute of Professional Development for Adult Educators. Jeff also sits on a state-level committee to explore and create a state model for adult career pathways and accelerated models for adult education programs. He is a key member of the Adult High School and GED Advisory Committee for the Florida Department of Education. He's a legislative advocate for adult students and teachers in the state of Florida as well. And so with that, I introduce you to Jeffrey Arnott. Jeff? Jeff, you are muted. So while Jeff is introducing himself, I also just want to encourage you all to introduce yourself in the chat box and give Jeff a nice warm welcome. And any questions you might have as we're going along, you can put them in the Q&A, but please do not put your questions in the chat, put them in the Q&A. All right, so Jeff, we can hear you now.
Okay, thank you, Sharon, and I'm so happy to be here. When we were talking the other day about some of the things that people are doing around the country to try to transform their program during COVID-19, I told Sharon I'd be more than happy to tell you our story here in Brevard County, and I realized when we have 500 people on here at the moment, which is absolutely fantastic. I know that we're going to be all over the place. And that's one thing about adult education that's unique from K-12 education is the fact that it's not really quote unquote cookie cutter. You know, a high school in Nebraska is a lot like a high school in Jacksonville, Florida. You have 6 or 7 periods a day, you have a school calendar, you have buses, you have lunches, you have English classes, you have that. Maybe the curriculum's a little different, but at the end of the day, it's still kind of all the same. With adult education, I know the processes are a little bit different from place to place, and I also realized that some of the way instruction is done differently, just because of technology may be available in one area, it may not be available in some parts of the country. and the students we serve as well. They're very diverse, and of course with many different backgrounds, and we have to meet the students a lot of times where they're at. So when I do this presentation, we are a school district program, and we actually transformed, I believe, a program kind of from the Byzantine era to the space age pretty quickly with some simple tools. And I realize if somebody's working for a college, some of these tools may have been in place for years and years and years, but in your typical school district program, that may not be the case. Or if you run a literacy program or something in a rural community or an urban community, it could be that. But one thing I'm going to do is I'm going to paint a picture of our program before getting into it. First of all, a little bit about myself. I have been an educator for 26 years. I also was in industry for 4 years as well, mostly working with logistics and marketing in an auto parts company, which was our family company. 15 years as an administrator, boy, time flies, and 11 years has been an adult and career education administration. I'm also an adjunct professor at Indian River State College right down the road in Vero Beach. I teach intro to education classes. Went to UF, go Gators, and went to USF, and I'm a doctoral candidate with everything going right. In 1 year, I'll have that bad boy done at the University of Pennsylvania in Philadelphia. Also, an update from my bio too. I'm the ACE of Florida president-elect. My term starts in about a year, and I'm also on the executive board for COABE as their board secretary, proudly serving for Sharon. Let me tell you a little bit about Brevard County. Brevard County, Florida, also known as the Space Coast, is geographically in the middle of the state along the East Coast. Many times people confuse it for Broward County, which is Fort Lauderdale, a little bit south of us. But this right here kind of describes some pictures of what people think of when they think of Brevard County. Ron John Surf Shop. I know you've been down I-95, and you can always tell you how many miles it is to Cocoa Beach because it tells you how many miles it is to Ron John. We have a beautiful port, a big port with the largest passenger terminal in the United States, I believe. And of course, we have the Space Center, and there's Cocoa Beach Pier. In fact, my house is right there by the pier. Okay, who we are. We're located, like I said, on Florida's Space Coast near Orlando. The county itself has about 600,000 residents, and we're the 10th largest county in Florida. So we are a big county. In fact, I always affectionately say we're the largest county in Florida that sometimes people have never heard of. We serve about 3,000 students a year in our program with 4 main campuses, and we do have a few off-site programs as well. We are a division of Brevard Public Schools, so we are a school district program. I report to the assistant superintendent, and very supportive, a very high-performing school district too, by the way. I want to paint that picture. Major industries here in our community are manufacturing, IT, tourism, logistics, and of course, space. And we have a solid relationship here locally with Eastern Florida State College, which is our community or state college here in Brevard County, and Career Source Florida, which is the Department of Labor down here in the Sunshine State. We also have the most followed social media pages in the United States for adult ed. Highly encourage you to follow it at Brevard Adult Ed on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. And we have growing CTE offerings, career and technical education offerings, including several apprenticeship programs. We've really taken advantage of how to really transform, get our students from the classroom into the workforce with the tools that they need through either CTE offerings or apprenticeship programs. Our funding, Florida's kind of unique. I know not every state has this, but we get about $3.75 million for our operations from the Florida Department of Education. That's actually allocated from local tax dollars. We receive about $600,000 from the federal grants, the money that Sharon was talking about at the beginning from Washington. And we receive about $200,000 from student fees, local workforce funds. Career Source, for instance, gave us probably about $65,000 to start up an apprenticeship program that pays for the teacher and stuff. And also some community education. We have some great leisure and yoga classes you can take advantage of as well here. And these are our major programs that we have and things that we do here in Brevard County. Of course, we have our adult CTE programs, which is growing. We only got a handful at the moment. We're really trying to grow that up a little bit. And of course, the core of our business is adult general education programs, which includes adult high school and GED. We have both here. Which is a high school program, is a full credit program. We graduate about 100 students a year out of that program, and GED around 300. We also have high school credit recovery. Florida allows students to come to our program to take a class and transfer it back in a high school credit. So we serve about 1,000 students there. So you take 3,000 plus that 1,000. That's who we serve in our programs themselves. Here's a little bit about our students per se. We have about a third of our students, 35%, are tested at the ABE level. 28% either are in the GED program or adult high school program. If you're in an adult high school program, you automatically go up to ASE. And then, of course, about 37% of our students are ESL learners. And here's the age range. We do have a very young population here in our program. 55% of our students are in the 16 to 24-year-old crowd. In fact, I was just telling Sharon, we're really kind of really serving more Gen Zers than millennials these days. And then at people over the age of 45, it's about 18% of our population. And that's a breakdown of our other demographics there as well, which is a little bit different than the general population here. About 80% of the people in Brevard County are white. Okay, where we were. And when we talk about we were basically having registration processes that were typical of many programs for school districts throughout the United States, I would say. Basically, students had to come in, fill out paper forms, in some cases up to 12 pages, not necessarily a form, but they had to sign something like a picture release or this policy, you know, a new paper seems like it comes in every year because we have to agree to something new. Students had to find a money order for payment. We didn't take cash. Florida does charge, by the way, $30 a semester. I know not every state does that. Students would have to then schedule a TABE and CASAS test and then come back for it. And then after they did that, they would meet with the guidance counselor, get a schedule, and then students would attend an orientation and meet with the career coach in most cases. Some of our off-sites, of course, it's a little bit different there. And this is where we wanted to go. These were things we were actually rolling out. We had this plan of building to this by the fall of 2020, and some of these things were already in place. For instance, we're on the verge of creating a new website. It hasn't been rolled out yet, but we're using our old website in the meantime because we have to go through a few approval processes. Credit card payments. We were going to start credit card payments around March 1st. I guess you could say it was good timing, you know, considering COVID's coming through, and we are doing credit card payments. Online registration programs through our Focus. Focus is our student management system. So we're working with them to try to make the online registration process real seamless, but we're still going through a few data reporting issues locally. So we did use another vendor product in order to fill the gap until we can get this online registration process going from them. We want to have a student portal where students have a single sign-on. They do in the high schools, but not with us. Basically, another thing we're getting ready to roll out too is every student will have an ID and they have to walk in the door and they'll scan their ID that'll help out the teacher for attendance. A new phone app, we're working with one of partners of COABE even to communicate with students and partners. We've already had that training and some teachers are already now starting to use it. We weren't going to roll that off probably until the winter of 2021. And online scheduling for TABE and CASAS, that's something that we're looking at doing since now remote testing is a possibility. And we've added we want to add more closed cohort blending learning models. We've done a few pilots here in Brevard County of some managed enrollment stuff, which really we're getting 85–90% of the students getting their GED out of those 8-week programs. And we were thinking, how could we add more of those and added blending learning? So it kind of all came together at the same time. And then all of a sudden we had to move up our timeline just because of COVID-19. This is the timeline of what happened. On March 13, 2020, probably very familiar date with everybody, we had to make a quick decision. We had to send all staff, including teachers, home until March 27th. Basically, it was right going into spring break, so we had that week off anyway. 12-month employees like myself had to be here. Decisions for students to work from home had to be made quick, real quick, because it was pretty much rumored that we probably weren't coming back until May, and now in Florida, we're not coming back at all for the school year. So we had to make a decision quick to keep students engaged and keep them around. If we made this, if we drug this out too far, we're going to lose students and we're going to lose them quick. It's what we had to do. So we basically had to make the decisions of what platforms we were going to use. We had to make a decision on how we were going to train teachers. How do students need equipment? Do students have equipment? Do teachers need equipment? Does other staff like secretaries and everything need equipment in order to pull this off? Other questions we had to answer: how can our vendors help? How can COABE help, like this webinar? How can IPDA help, Florida DOE? How can they help with professional development? Because this is a whole different mode of learning. How will students register? Do we take new students? How do they register? That came up. How do we serve our students? How do we serve potentially future students who may be affected by COVID-19? And how do we support teachers in a distance learning format in a remote setting? So those were the questions that we had to ask building this up. And we will answer a few of these questions here. But basically within 10 days, we had a few staff members. Evelyn, who's on with us, is one of the staff members that helped me out with this. But basically we decided, following the 2-week spring break, we got an extra one, we created an online registration system and placed our credit card processing on our website, brevardadulted.com, which we'll go over and I'll show you that later. We made that decision a few years ago to actually rename our website and saying brevard.k12.fl.us/adult ed. We marketed our own website and we just linked it. We went to a service that actually just links that right to our school district website, which thank goodness we've done it because we've been marketing it for a while. And we created a day and evening registration hotline for current and prospective students because we knew students were going to have a lot of questions during this time period. So in fact, myself, I run the evening hotline from 5 to 9, Monday through Friday. If students call up and they have questions about our program, they're having trouble getting hold of a teacher, which by the way, has not been that many calls on getting a hold of teachers, but we have had a few calls on, quite a few calls actually, on students wanting to register and ask a lot of questions. We basically gave all of our 4 campuses some district cell phones. They gave us a nice price down there. So we just had temporarily changed our numbers. We advertised them heavily on our website, and advertised them heavily on our social media sites, and forwarded phones that we could forward. So each of our campuses received those things. Our tech team prepared 50 computers for students to check out if needed. I was worried that 50 was not going to be enough because we do have about 1,000 students currently enrolled. So we figured let's just get that many ready, and if we need more, we'll get more. We used a lot of desktops. We used a couple computer labs that weren't really being used that often because we basically, when this whole thing's over, we don't want operations backed up on this end coming back to campus because all the computers were gone. So we wanted to have a nice balanced approach there, how to serve those in need, but how to keep us in operations at the same time. AT&T, thanks to them, they graciously gave our school district several hotspots. When I say several, we're talking several hundred. Brevard Adult Ed received 25. We also prepared care packages. I had one employee, he was a resource teacher, made sure these computers got out to students, made sure we had supplies. Ironically enough, literally a week before this all happened, we got 20 pallets worth of supplies from Home Depot's foundation that delivered them all to our gym. And it was kind of funny. One of the pallets was full of toilet paper too, which a lot of students got some free toilet paper out of that as well. But there was all kinds of stuff in there that we were able to give to students who may have needed that stuff as well. The Florida DOE informed us later that week that the COABE and CASAS pre-testing requirements were suspended or delayed, whatever word you want to use. I might be using the wrong word. But that was a Florida thing. Notice it's Florida, but we still could enroll new students. I know there's some flexibility that the United States Department of Ed may be granting to states. Florida's already done that. Okay, on March 30th, 2020, we decided to use Zoom and Google Classrooms for our learning platforms. And the reason why we used Zoom is because Zoom was readily available to all teachers real easy. And we used Google Classroom because Google Classroom is something that our school district already purchased. At first, I was thinking about just going with one platform and saying, this is what we're going to do. But during those 2 weeks of spring break, a lot of teachers were really just starting to think about what they were going to do in this online atmosphere. And they came up with all these wonderful ideas and all these great things that they were planning to do on different types of platforms. And when I read about 8 of those emails and talked to a few teachers, I started saying, who am I to stop all that creativity? So I have let the teachers use as much creativity as possible in order to give out this instruction to their students. I feel as an educator of 26 years, I've always been given that myself. Let me teach the classroom the way I feel fits for my students. Who am I to do that to my adult ed teachers? But however, we wanted to make sure the teachers had tools to be creative. So we use Zoom and we use Google Classroom. So during the week of March 30th, Evelyn and Katie Owens, two of my staff members, trained as many teachers as possible, virtually, by the way, on how to use these particular tools themselves. But during this week, teachers were also responsible for reaching out to the students they had in their classroom to let them know about the new class format. Good news is about as many students who show up to class on a brick and mortar situation showed up on our online situation. So we have not seen a drop in attendance, which is beautiful. And I think this had something to do with it. Having the teachers reaching out to the students, and I told them, call them up one at a time, check in with them, and I think that's important, checking in with them, see how they're doing, and then tell them about this. And from what the teachers were telling me and staff, that students were just excited about being able to continue their education, which was great. Our resource teachers did a wonderful job of preparing a menu of resources and lessons that teachers could use. Just basically a variety, letting the teachers decide. In fact, they gave me like 6 or 7 pages full of them. It was really a nice comprehensive list. We also scheduled webinars with our vendors so teachers could be familiar with the features of remote learning on some of our online platforms. Our vendors have been fantastic. I just want to let you know that. And in fact, I know we got another vendor doing some next week, and the attendance has been very, very, very high. Secretaries and administrators were encouraged to work remotely on April 1st. That was no April Fool's Day joke by the school district. So basically, within a 24-hour period, we had to figure out how to get the 12-month employees that were reporting to work working from home. And actually it worked pretty well. The secretaries were asking me, can I take my tower home? The computer tower. I said, sure, take it, whatever you need. So they were able to take all the supplies you need, take whatever you need to get that going, so we can basically change the phone numbers on the page, on the web pages and stuff like that night. And it worked out wonderful and great. Also, I had a couple staff members calling students who are no longer with us to try to encourage them to come back. We figured this is a good time, find out their barriers, and we had over 100 and some students re-enroll who maybe withdrew last semester, which we found was fantastic. In fact, we're still working some of those lists. Our online registration process was ready to go on March 30th, and we started it up on March 1st. Classes themselves started on March 31st of 2020 of our third restart of the year, because we had a hurricane earlier this year too. Also, our CTE classes also transitioned with online program as well. It's doing pretty well. And also, we even have a couple of our online community education classes up and running now. We're doing some OSHA training and a few things in a remote things. So what does the classroom look like? I left that up to the teachers. We use Zoom and Google Classroom, even though some teachers are using some other things. I know I have one teacher that's wanted to uses Facebook Live. Fine with me. It seems to work. I ran it by district legal team, and they didn't have a problem with it. So they did that. And I know Zoom was controversial at first because of some news stories out there, but our district said it was okay for us to use it. We continued the students with their current schedule they had. So basically, we made it an asynchronous type of schedule. So basically, if the student was scheduled to be there Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, let's say, hypothetically speaking, from 9 to 10 those 3 days, the teacher would meet with those students during that same time period in a virtual Zoom setting. Now, if they were in a true online program before that, it just went on as usual. So we thought, let's give it a try and let's see what happens. It worked beautifully. Teachers have invited me to their Zoom classrooms, and I've seen nothing but fantastic stuff. In fact, I'm seeing more creativity than ever than you would have in a typical Zoom classroom. Also, teachers supplemented by using vendor products. And in fact, they're using the vendor products probably more than they ever have before, because, I remember, back in the day when I teach now college, you get all those online resources that are in the book that sometimes you don't use them. Now, all of a sudden, you're starting to use them, and then you're finding out there's some pretty good stuff on there. And it has turned into a true blended model. Teachers are actually telling others, students, hey, work on this project at home. We'll talk about it tomorrow. It's working out great, which also, by the way, means more instructional hours you can report. Support for teachers. This is what I did here for the teachers. I had one resource teacher make sure that teachers would get their PD points for webinars like this one today and others. And we're actually seeing participation in professional development go way, way up. Two resource employees also are helping teachers with Zoom and Google Classroom. They're helping them with that if they have questions. One resource teacher is helping teachers to use Apple products because some teachers are using their own products. We don't have Apple here, maybe some iPads. We don't have Apple computers. But Brad, he knows apples. He loves apples. He sleeps apples. He eats apples, the whole 9 yards. So he answers everybody's Apple question. And our tech, Matt, is absolutely fantastic. He can remote into teachers and some student computers to troubleshoot any product problems. He's relatively available 24/7 to help out students who may be having some trouble with the computers. Resource teachers would continue to create lessons. They are still continuing to create lessons and provide support on teaching in an online environment. And we're kind of all learning that together because I don't think anybody here was an expert on online learning. But we're trying to become experts together. And it's really starting to build a lot of camaraderie too. We're not even here. Anyway, I just want to let you hear from a couple of our voices here. I'll start with Mr. Malaska. Mr. Malaska has been with Brevard Adult Ed, for a long, long time. He'll let you know how long he's been here. But he's my head administrator here at our Cocoa campus. We have 4 beautiful campuses here. He runs the one here in the central part of the county itself. So Mr. Malaska, you want to talk a little bit about how you've supported teachers from an administrator's point of view?
Okay, thank you very much to all of our colleagues out there. I'm Jose Marlaska. I'm in charge of the Adult Ed Center in Cocoa. Thanks, Jeff, for trying to tell people what my age is. I was
Yes.
going to say I've been in adult ed too long, but I'm just kidding. I have been working with adult education for the last 20 plus years. I've been in the district for almost 30 years and been an administrator for almost 40. So I am ready to start my retirement process soon. But I just wanted to give Jeff the thank you for giving us the opportunity to share just a couple of things from my administrative point of view. I'll let him continue right after Ms. Padilla talks because he has all the details on a lot of the things. I'm just going to cover a couple of highlights. We know that this COVID situation has been a learning curve for all of us, and it hasn't been easy. And like Jeff, I didn't think that our teachers and students were going to respond as positively as they have. I think one of our big things is our younger students would do whatever to be in front of any kind of screen, and we know that. If you have teenagers at home, you know that as well. And so everybody has been responding very positively. We've had a very positive response from our students. Basically, what we did in a nutshell is our secretaries as well as our team, this has been big team effort, and that's what's made this happen for us. Our secretaries emailed and called students. Our administrative staff also did the same thing. We started targeting the students that were with us this term and had withdrawn for any reason. We also targeted the students from our fall term that had not returned. And then of course, we opened it up to any new students that wanted to join us. We've been doing registrations, like Jeff said, on the phone and online. And we are using now our new credit debit card platform. Right after that, students, once they have registered, made their payment, they're directed to our counselors at our different centers, which place them in their corresponding classes. And then we divided up our teachers to high school credit, ABE, GED. Some of us combined those two programs. We also have ESOL because we wanted to make sure that we could keep all of our programs open to better serve our students. Teachers at this point, with the support of all of us as administrators, are turning in every week or every 2 weeks an attendance and performance report to the administrators so that we can follow up and keep track of the students' attendance as well as progress. Last but not least, I wanted to share that we've had a lot of success stories, and I was sharing with Jeff the other day about people seeing and looking at our social media pages. We have had students from previous years that have now gone into our social media pages and have rejoined us. We had a case of a student that was with us back in 2015, 2016 that are now back and are working online. And I want to proudly say that after almost 4.5 weeks of doing this online, we are up and running, and our students are working and making a lot of progress. So to end, I would like to hope and wish to all of my colleagues out there to be safe, and I hope you're doing as well or better than what we're doing here in Brevard. And it has been a learning curve, but we're making it happen for our students. So that's all I had, and have a great afternoon. And thank you, Jeff, for giving me the opportunity.
No problem. Thank you, Jose. It's always good to get your wisdom in there. And next up is Evelyn Padilla. Evelyn, she's our communication and engagement coordinator. She's the one responsible a lot for our social media sites and really engaging with our chambers here locally along the Space Coast, and working with me on relationships with not only vendors but also with the news media. We have advertised on all the radio stations. Yeah, she's definitely involved with anything, with any giveaways. Evelyn is usually there. So Evelyn, without further ado.
Thanks, Jeff. Good afternoon, everybody. And thanks for tuning in. And Jeff, thanks for including me on your webinar. My name is Evelyn Padilla, and I am the Communications and Engagement Coordinator for all 4 of our centers at Brevard Adult Education. Like Jeff said, I run our marketing efforts, run our social media sites, our website, as well as build relationships with our community and partnerships. Once we were hit with the news that we were going to have to go to online training, one of the first things that we did while transitioning to the online learning was we asked our teachers what they needed. A lot of our teachers needed technology, phones, hotspots, computers, dot cams, things like that. So we compiled a list of what our teachers needed, and we made sure they had everything they need to comfortably work from home. The second thing we did, like Jeff mentioned earlier, was we trained our teachers and our staff on the Zoom platform and the Google Classroom platform. We did the training in Zoom so that they could create an account, log in for the first time, see what it was like. While we were in there, we covered the basics on how to host a meeting, how to set up all your settings in the meetings, so you make sure that your camera is on and you can see yourself. Make sure your mic is on and you can hear yourself. We really went through all of the troubleshooting stages for that, as well as recording videos, making sure they knew how to do all of that, as well as sending out the invite for their students. Really just went over Zoom as a whole. And then Katie, my counterpart, she did the Google Classroom training, and we actually did the Google Classroom training in Google Classroom so that, again, they could create a Google Classroom account. They could go in and mess around while we trained them. The staff added themselves to the Google Classroom, and then this was a great way for them to be able to continue to collaborate later on. And it has been so amazing watching teachers helping each other on there, or, hey, I have this issue, what are you guys doing? And everybody is collaborating so well on Google Classroom. So shout out to Katie for setting that up, because that was really, really great. I do want to mention that although we did do the Zoom training and the Google Classroom, like Jeff said earlier, he kind of let the teachers have free range on what they wanted to use. A lot of our teachers decided to use Skype. Some of them are using WhatsApp. Most of our ESOL teachers are using WhatsApp to communicate with their students. Others are using Google Hangouts, Facebook Live. They're recording videos and sending the videos to their students, and then having kind of like a email discussion back and forth. And we obviously, Katie and I stayed on board to help teachers troubleshoot any issues that they might have. So we had questions like, oh my gosh, it's my first day, I need to start my Zoom classroom and I can't get this to work, or I can't get, so Katie and I were really on call that first week while teachers were really trying to troubleshoot those programs. And really it was just minor things. You know, they forgot to plug something in, they forgot to switch a setting, just easy things we could help them through, and stayed with them during the Zoom meeting if they needed it, so that we were there to help support them through that. Then we also had the teachers reach out to their students and ask the students what kinds of things they need. Like Jeff mentioned earlier, some students needed computers, some students needed hotspots, some students preferred books. So we got all of the materials to those students before they started going virtual per se. And then lastly, one of the things that I'm not sure if Jeff mentioned it yet or not, we created an email address where basically any student could communicate with us at any day and time, and Jeff and I both have the email so we can respond quickly to any of their questions. It has been really, really big with anybody asking questions from our social media pages or from our online. And we basically did that through our school district and had them create that, as well as we have a hotline number, which is the one Jeff was talking about, where we have a staff member during the day hours, and we have, I believe Jeff has the other one, until 9 o'clock at night on weekdays, just to make sure that the students are being helped at all hours of the day. I personally am constantly responding to Facebook messages, no matter what day or night. It doesn't matter what time it is. You know, when those questions come in, I answer those as best as I can. If not, I relay those to Jeff. And that's really all that I have as to what my part was helping in. And we definitely, and something else that I also want to mention, we did reach out to all of our community members, our partners, our municipalities, as well as our chambers. They all shared all of our information, letting the community know Brevard Adult Education is still open. We are still helping the community however we can. You can now do all of your registration and payments online, and that was a huge help for us as well. And that's all I have, Jeff. Thank you so much for including me, and I wish you all well.
Okay, thank you, Evelyn. Okay, let's go on to the next one. And basically, we decided that you know, we had that crossroads, and it really was it wasn't even a discussion. We decided we're open for business, so we really decided we're going to still take on new students. And since COVID-19, we opened, you know, flicked the switch on March 30th through April 17th, we've enrolled 77 new students. These are students that have never been in our program, and we got 124 that have returned that used to be students with us. Of those, 77 had to pay with credit card, or 77 of them had to pay. You know, if they were enrolled this semester, they wouldn't have to repay for the rest of the semester. But yes, 77 played. We had no money orders, just the one complaint, and we're serving 94 students. Those are those credit recovery students that I was telling you about that were high school students. So as you can see, this business has never been this busy, especially during this time of year. I'd say during this time of year, we may have 10 new registrations. I mean, it's pretty low. But not only we doubled down, we did some heavy advertising on Facebook. We have students calling. I know we have a kid from New York enrolled. We have an adult from Miami enrolled. We could, sure, you know, there's no boundaries here. And with some of this new online learning, we might even be serving kids in the Bahamas here before it's all said and done. But here's our registration process in a nutshell. So basically, we just go to brevardadulted.com, and it's not the most pretty page in the world, but it's going to be pretty here soon. If this works. Yeah, here we go. So basically, we just made it very easy. We just put the information right in the middle of the page during this whole shutdown thing. So basically, students would just go onto this thing. They can pay by MasterCard, Visa, American Express, Discover, and this JCB card, which I have no idea what that is. But anyway, it's very simple. We use the vendor product. I know I have somebody ask that question in the chat thing, but basically a student goes on here. They just click the campus they're going to, like
Jack,
this. Yes.
you're still on your PowerPoint screen. It's not
Oh.
showing the website.
It's not. Okay. Let me try it. Now let's try it. Thanks for letting me know that. Okay, let me go back to the to our web page here, as we said here. But basically, there's a little thing on here. It says now we're accepting online payments, and it just goes right down here to the campus. Let's say they want to go to our Melbourne campus. We just click that on there, and then the student would fill out what was normally those 12 pages of information. They would just go right here, fill it all in. We don't ask for some hardcore data like social security numbers and things like that. We just ask for the last 4 digits. But basically, when the application comes to us or goes to one of our secretaries, actually, they're alerted immediately that they have it. They'll go in and process it and call the student up and say, like, hey, we need this other information. And if they have to send us a copy of anything, they just scan and email it to us, or take a picture of it and scan and email it to us. There's plenty of apps out there that turns things into PDF files. So that's pretty much what it is. It's pretty simple, pretty easy. It takes about 5 minutes to do it, and then the student can go on here and pay. We have a partnership with Wells Fargo. That's our bank, but Wells Fargo really worked with us closely. Our school district worked with us. Those are the instructions. Here it is, pay now. They go right on there, and it's very simple to pay. It's actually easier to order, to pay here than it is to get a pizza from Domino's, by putting your credit card in. It's very simple, very easy. We are alerted immediately when the student pays, and actually the good news is this money actually gets into our account quicker than any other processes we used, even cash. So we're able to, use that money for our program very, very easily. Very, 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 very easy to use. Okay, let me get back to the PowerPoint. Okay. Also, students can now pay with credit card, as we mentioned. Once the school has the application, we've kind of gone over this. The student then will talk to a guidance counselor and receive a quick orientation and is assigned a teacher. The teacher will then acclimate the student to their new class. It's been working very, very, very well. And also, once COABE goes remote, I know COABE and CASAS are talking about that. I think CASAS is coming right around the corner. Once those processes are defined, we will include there's other approvals we have to get, like the Department of Ed, little things like that. But once those things are in place, we're looking at this as potentially a silver lining. Well, can we still do this remote process after COVID-19? Talk about convenience for students and convenience for staff. Also, these are some of the things that we discovered. Myself, my dissertation is very qualitative, and I've been taking some notes here a little bit about what we've come across. One, I found out amazingly, our teachers and staff are amazing. Everybody bought in. It was like everyone got their sleeves up. It wasn't even a question. It's like, what do we have to do next, sir? It was like, boom. And we're at it getting this done, and we got it done really, really quick, too. Teachers are taking advantage of more professional opportunities than ever. In fact, we're going to look at some of our professional development partners, Avid for Higher Ed being one, and Avid does a wonderful job, asking them, hey, we may need to work together on how do we bring Avid strategies into the online format. Little things like that. And also, teachers are communicating, as Evelyn talked about, with each other more than ever. These are kind of like unofficial PLCs that have started to develop on top of our regular PLCs. These are like ones that are really engaging. So now I'm starting to think, how can our PLC models now shift to this type of format? It's starting to percolate into something nice. Also, students were ready for this transition. I was fearing the worst. And I think a lot of times as educators, we really worry about the students, and that's a good thing that we do that. But we found out the students had more access to online learning than I ever would have thought. And there was no complaints about paying by credit card or check online, none of that stuff. Those were concerns that I had that I thought would come up, but they just didn't. In fact, we only gave away about 20 computers. I still got 30 here for students who need them if they want them. And I still have about 15 hotspots. In fact, a lot of the hotspots went to the teachers. They didn't even go to the students. Students are requesting to have more online learning options after COVID-19. I know Mr. Malaska talked about that. That's one of the things that we've seen as well. Our vendors are amazing. They provide us a lot of free professional development and support for our teachers. A couple of the vendors would actually just take calls from teachers on how to, to use these things. I was really impressed by how much they stepped up during this, and they didn't ask for $1. It wasn't like, hey, we got this special going. It was none of that. It was like, how can we help you out, Jeff? And teachers are excited about the new app that we're getting ready to roll out. In fact, we've already had a couple trainings. They're excited about how they can use this app to communicate with students. So I'm starting to notice that teachers are wanting to communicate with students in a different type of format. And I think it's really starting to work. In fact, we're going to roll that out just a little bit earlier. What must still be answered? Of course, we have those things, and we're starting to see some things now. I could tell you yesterday, I have a teacher email Mr. Malaska and I actually about two of her students may want to use computers now because they've been trying to do their classwork on an iPhone. So I think students at first thought, well, I could do this with a phone. And now they're starting to realize that maybe I do need a different piece of hardware, which is a good thing. They're really wanting to do that. So we're going to meet those two students to give them 2 of these computers here they can borrow during that break. So I've noticed that. And also we have a student who needed a GED calculator. We're starting to get these little mini requests out there a little bit, which is fine. We can fulfill those. But basically, these are some questions that we have to answer in the future. How do we ensure effectiveness in the classroom? I have never been trained as an administrator on how to effectively and support a teacher online. And I guarantee you 99% of administrators probably have not. That's something that we have to answer. In fact, that was such a big deal here in Brevard County that the union actually negotiated that administrators wouldn't evaluate teachers on their performance online. And I totally get that. I support the union on that. So yeah, that's a thing we have to do. How do we support teachers in that type of platform? And what will the retention be after time? I think that's another question we have, but we haven't seen the retention rate drop. I mean, we haven't seen the dropout rate drop. It seems like it's holding steady. Also, will remote and CASAS TABE continue after COVID-19? That's a big answer I like to have. And when will it be safe to open the GED testing service center? We are getting a lot of students now that really want to go in and test. They're wanting to move on with everything. That's an answer. I guess we just got to wait about another week to find out when we can do that safely with CDC guidelines, of course. And how will we ensure that all students have access to online learning? I think that's a question we always got to ask, because there's always going to be some students who may need some of that help. And what are infrastructure costs that will occur after COVID-19 with online platforms? I know Sharon was talking about, some of the money that COABE will be asking for in the future from Washington is our programs. This worked good now, but as we expand into more of this learning potentially for teachers and students, will our systems be ready for it, type of stuff. Silver linings. We are exploring now how to move a lot of our credit programs to an online format. Also, we're looking at maybe Zoom classes on Saturdays. We don't have to open up buildings. I don't have to have supervision. Teachers got their computer, the students got their computer. It sounds like it could be a win-win there across the board. We'll be able to expand our calendar in the summer. For instance, our summer ends on June 30th. Now, and the main reason it is because of electric costs in July at the school district thing here. We could continue that on into the month of July because it's not going to cost us any more in utility bills to do that. And true blended learning is a possibility. It's no longer what I would call superficial. Sometimes I would consider online learning was a little bit of that. This asynchronous learning is looking to something well. And students are forced to be in using technology that they will use in college and the workforce. And I think that's our staff, that's myself and everybody else. I know, well, I almost doubt I use Zoom now just because of this. So it's actually forcing us, as Sharon talked about going into the space age, like we got to get on that rocket ship or we're going to be left behind. It's like we're there. And staff and students will save time during the registration process. And teachers are learning more about the tools at their disposal. A lot of times we just kind of ignored those, or that's me speaking. Professional development has become more robust and relevant to our current learning situation. I think that has been so true. The new website is not working. I don't think, but I know it's not, because I just tried it a few minutes ago. But we do have a new website coming out that we're pretty excited about, and we're excited that our new app will be totally functional by 2021. Even though we are rolling it out early, but it will be completely functional. Our new online process will be tied to our data management system. We're excited about, and also basically we plan to have 100% paperless registration process by the end of the 2021 school year. In fact, we're almost there now, and we figured that this has not only just made us force up our timeline a little bit, but also has made the future just look that much brighter for our students and for our programs themselves. And of course, I will answer some questions here, but before we do that, I definitely want to make sure that you follow us on social media. In fact, a few of you already have here during this call, and I'd like to thank you, including a Penn grad. Go Quakers. But yeah, just, definitely follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. I think you'll find them engaging. We have over 15,000 followers on our Facebook page, and we definitely use them extensively for our marketing purposes. But anyway, let me answer a few questions here. By the way, I know there was a few questions here on vendor products. I don't mind answering those questions. If you just email me or call me, tweet me, any of those type of things, I'll definitely go over those things. But there's my cell phone number, there's my email address, there's my Twitter handle. I definitely encourage you to reach out. I have no problem with that at all. And with that, let me answer some of these questions real quick.
Jeff, I can also
Yes.
just,
Sure.
jump in here and say that we have, if you've posted your question in the Q&A,
Yes.
we have that. So I'll make sure that Jeff has access to that and can get back with you. But we want to be really thoughtful because we have a wonderful vendor in Pyra who has
Sure.
made this whole webinar possible free of charge for our members. So
Okay.
that's exactly where we're coming from with that. But Jeff, we have a ton of questions in here, 80
Yes.
questions.
Yes.
So what I'm going to recommend, since we're near the top of the hour, is we'll take a few, but then understanding that we can definitely circle back with everybody. We have your email
Sure.
address, you posted.
No problem. No problem at all. I'll go through a couple of them real quick. They ask about, do you charge for adult ed? Yes, that is a Florida thing. Florida, it's by state statute. We have to charge $30 per term. So a student wouldn't pay more than $90 a year for adult education classes, and they could take as many as they want. Some of these are vendor questions, and I will reply back to those vendor questions individually. How to require, how the computers, this is a good question. How are we going to make sure we get the computers back? Well, they do sign the quote unquote their life away to get them. We definitely made sure the computers were functional, and I know we've been in this situation before with hurricanes, and I will say we do get some back that aren't in the best shape in the world. But yeah, we just got to just hold on and hope and stuff like that. So, and especially in this situation, it's going to be a definitely unique situation. See here. Yeah, ESL students. Yeah, we've had no problems with ESL students using debit or credit cards. That has not been a problem at all. A lot of times might be some prepaid. I don't see what the card is when they register, of course, but it has to be that. And do you have 5 resource teachers? Yeah, we do have. That's a good question. I forgot to put in there. How big's our staff? I have about 150 employees that work for me, either teachers, secretaries, things like that. And I do have about 5 resource staff and 1 tech to support our teachers in the classroom. Yeah, I do. And they do a variety of duties, like one writes grants, another person deals with marketing, another person deals with technology, ESOL. They building with new stuff like that. But yeah, like any of these vendor questions, I'll definitely go on here and respond back to these, Sharon, and I'll be more than happy. And I'll take a little time and I will answer every one of these questions, all 93 of them. Yes, I definitely will. Okay, including the vendors. I'll definitely give the vendors' names out there. Yes.
Great. So while we have just a few minutes, I'm going to launch our poll real quick. We really need everybody that's on to take this quick poll. And also, while we're doing that, Shanti, would you like to share your screen and say a few words? This is our vendor who has supported this webinar and made it possible for all of us to enjoy these wonderful words of wisdom from Jeff and his team.
And thank you very much. I am happy to be here today with you all, and I'm just going to be sharing my screen right there. One second. there's another sharing going on. So can we close that?
I sure can. Yep. Okay.
Okay, so I'll just share. Still says another participant is sharing.
Oh, let me stop. That's me. There you go.
Okay. So with that, one second, I just want to put this on the screen. Again, thank you all for allowing me to sponsor this session. Right now, we know that there's a lot of things that have changed in adult ed, and everything needs to go virtual. And we wanted to present our solution as it has helped and is helping and can help many adult ed programs to be successful. So one of the things we're talking about is, all of the separated pieces of data, and, when data is separated, it does little for you, but when it's put together, it does a lot more. So some of the challenges we've seen our vendors, our customers have, is with student engagement, sharing data with partners, having different systems for different data, inconsistent and difficult communication, and not having a streamlined process where it makes it easy for all students and staff to work together seamlessly in one system. And our solution provides not only a solution for these challenges by engaging students, allowing data sharing, and bringing all the data in one platform, but it also provides a mechanism to communicate based on workflow. So it almost creates a virtual assistant for students to say, hey, this is your next step. And at a different point in time, their steps change. If they're under 18, it can trigger certain actions. So the power is of OneFlow is where it brings it all together. But more than only bringing it together is a big deal, because without bringing things together, different tools look like this. And with everything together, they work seamlessly together. But even more importantly, once you have that and you have the power of workflow, you can do things that trigger actions. And our solution also allows consortiums to collaborate and work together by creating data sharing and having the appropriate securities in place, but allowing all the partners to come together to make referrals, share data, have the agreements in place, having students act on their referrals and knowing about it when all of the, maybe the colleges and so on that you're looking at can come in and see their referrals. So it truly creates that ecosystem where everyone can work together, and it's a solution that can scale whether you're one small organization or you're a consortium or you're a large organization that has, maybe thousands of students. And if you have, I know there's a lot of questions about pricing. We start as low as $1,250 a month, which is $15,000 a year. But basically for a core, we have a lot of add-on modules that allow you to expand as needed. And you can start small and build up. If you need more information, our contact information is here. This is our sales specialist, Michael, who you can reach out to. And, or you can send an email to sales@empira.com. And we look forward to hearing from you. The solution is called OneFlow. The website is myoneflow.com. And we'd love to hear more from you if you feel you can use our solution or if you have any questions. Just wanted to talk about what we bring together is we have portals, students can engage, and they have a mobile app. It allows the staff to work and bring together data, whether it's assessment scores, communications, forms, events, services that you're providing, making appointments, documentation you're collecting, bringing together the training program, course data, all of that together in one platform, and being able to do things. So for example, you can say when a student in this training program is finishing, don't send a reminder, a text reminder saying, hey, don't forget to go get your scrubs tomorrow. So all of those little things that impact success. Our big mission is to improve the success and the outcomes for students, for staff, and all the stakeholders in the system. And thank you for the opportunity to sponsor this. And, we appreciate all of the work that all of you are doing in adult ed to make a difference.
Thank you so much, Shanti. We appreciate your time. And, from COABE to everybody here on this webinar, we just thank you for making time, making an hour out of your day to join us. And a special thanks to Jeffrey Arnott, who is our presenter. So we hope to see you all on our next webinar, which is tomorrow at 2 o'clock Eastern Standard Time. And we wish you the very best in the meantime. Bye now.
Bye.
Bye now.